Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of Insight Spark webinar. And with me in the studio is not that person, but David Ezekiel. I'm so glad to have you here, David. David is a senior data analyst and is somebody I have so much regard for. And I'm so glad to have you here, David. Thank you for being here. So today he'll
Thank
be
you.
taking us through this important topic that talks about insight about building a career as a data analyst. David, welcome to the webinar today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Thank you so much. Okay, so can you tell us a bit about yourself? Your background and how you were able to get into data analysis?
Yeah, about my background is quite a funny one because I started out as a very, very curious child. Growing up, it has always been me being curious to try to figure out how things work. It was something I really loved so much, and largely part of the reason why I went into science because I was so fascinated about physics, mathematics, and how do these
Wow.
things work, and how is mathematics consistent across board. I'm able to apply this formula to get this, and that curiosity was quite helpful. And it has its own downside because I always broke things at home. I always wanted to figure out work. And later on in my life, when I got to secondary school, I read an article that said that 70% of the world is covered with water and just 30% is land. And I became curious. And I remember growing up, people always talk about insufficient land, we don't have enough land, and land disputes. I told my dad that I was going to be a civil engineer because I wanted to build more houses in water so that people don't have to struggle for land. And
Yeah.
my mom always remind me that I said I was going to build a house in water. I thought I'm going to give you a house in water, but when I got into secondary school, I started having different interests. And I still went to school in university. My first degree was civil engineering. I did civil engineering, but along the way, I started understanding that maybe my interest really was about numbers and trying to make sense. And I went into data analytics and I really found my perfect fit. It was just like I fit into this place because I was able to go down the rabbit hole, troubleshoot as much as I want. I could spend days trying to figure out why this thing is not working, why this
Wow.
not consistent. What is this data saying? Why do we have these anomalies in the data? Why they spike in this trend? And all of those city trying to answer question was something I really enjoyed. And I've been in data analytics for quite a while. And because of
Wow.
that university, I also went into data engineering, data architecture, because the architecture part of it is trying to understand how does this whole thing work? How do we get the data from one form into a unified platform, making it accessible to everyone? And how do we build this kind of data architecture that everybody is able to plug into and data flow seamlessly, having an effective pipeline, having all of this, which is quite interesting and is something that I'm happy to be doing.
Wow. Interesting. So from civil engineering to data analysis and data
You could say
engineering.
that, but it's
Wow. Wow. And then for you to be a senior data analyst simply means that you've been in this field for quite a while right now.
yeah, I've been in the field for quite a while. I think well actively, like I said before, I've been tinkering with data. I've been like working
Yeah.
with Excel, trying to write Excel functions, doing all of those things. But let me say when my post Excel career is maybe in like about 6 years or thereabout. Yeah.
Wow.
But all the while
Wow.
I've always just like working with numbers and doing all of that. Yeah. And
Interesting.
by the way, at the point
Interesting.
in my life, I taught mathematics. So
Oh, nice. So you're still revolving around data and number and all of that.
yeah, I just like working with numbers and trying to just
Interesting.
punch.
I don't think I like working with numbers. Wow. So I'm more comfortable with designing and the likes of it. So I know there are some persons that are really interested in this and they really learn a lot from what we are conversing about today. Okay,
Yeah.
so what does typical day look like for you as a data analyst? I'm
Yeah, a
curious.
typical day for a data analyst is different from what you see on YouTube. So if you search on YouTube, the day in the life of a data analyst, you'll see the data analyst will wake up in the morning, have a cup of coffee, and bring out his snack and walk majestically to a laptop, and the guy is just playing around writing codes, and you write code from
Mm,
morning till night. You go for this run, he'll now by afternoon you go for like a jogging and come back.
yeah.
By the end of the day he goes to the gym. Well, that is an ideal state of a data analyst, but a typical day of a data analyst could be you waking up in the morning still with your pajamas and you're trying to figure out a problem you were thinking about last night,
Mm,
and you want
mm,
to see how to resolve by that morning. But beyond all of those technical parts, which is the technical part, is very, very critical because as a data
yeah.
analyst, you get to a point in your career, which we're going to talk about later on, where you need
Okay.
to write code. There are some parts of
Wow.
analytics job that requires you to know how to design. Um, at a point in my career, I started using Figma to be able to design my dashboard.
Nice.
Just having the dashboard is not good enough as how it's presented. So there's a part of it that has to do with design. There's a part of it that
Okay.
has to do with knowing how to code. Like I've said it before. And because if you're using Power BI, for example, you need to write dash query. If you are getting your data from a database, you need to know SQL. And if you want to do any kind of EDA, exploratory data analytics, you need Python skills there. So that one is
Wow.
there. And but more importantly is the non-technical part of data analytics, which not
Okay.
everyone is about: collaboration, teamwork. I'm trying to
Mm,
idea problems. I'm problem solving. And most of your time really might be spent doing that because you could wake up in the morning, join on your meeting, you are in a sprint and you are trying to give
mm,
up your closing ticket, opening ticket, doing all of that. You join another meeting where you're trying to understand the whole data set. What is this data about? What is this data doing? And all of that. So a typical day in the life of a data analyst goes through three stages, really. The first is where
mm,
you try to kind of understand what is the team working on, what is the end goal, what is the problem we are trying to fix, and what is the data, how do we understand the data, how do we clean the data. The second stage is how do we now build a solution for this problem. Mostly for data analytics, they are mostly BI developers. So they develop the dashboard, they develop the report, and they just bring about the final result based on the
yeah.
problem they are working on. And the last bit is where you now make that solution accessible to all of the end users and those that should actually have access to that. So almost everything about a data analyst revolves around these three things. You try to understand it, you build it, and you make it accessible.
Wow. Interesting. I'm
Yeah.
not a data analyst, but I'm learning a lot already.
Yeah.
Thank you, David. So I'm just wondering that maybe somebody just got to, find this video on YouTube and the person just heard about this for the first time. So can you just define what data analyst is to maybe a layman in such a way that the person can even understand the subject we're talking about right now?
Yeah, if you want a dictionary definition of data analytics, well, I would say you should go on Google. Just Google it. What is data analytics? It's all everywhere. Or you could just ask ChatGPT. It could tell you the meaning of data analytics. But actually, in the real term, data analytics, the way I see it, I just call data analytics is helping businesses make informed decision. That is how I
Wow.
summarize it. Because the thing about data analytics and what makes it unique is the end goal. The end goal is
Mm,
business users, business decision makers, stakeholders. They want
yeah.
to make an informed decision. And the only way they can make that informed decision is with data. And someone
Mm,
might ask, why data? Why not something else? Because everybody lives on.
mm-hmm.
You can, even if you have someone in the remote village, they have different touch points with online connection. They go to
Sure.
POS and say, I want to make a transaction, I want
Mm-hmm.
to withdraw money, they make bank transaction. Some of them they go to the bank, and some they do some kind of selling. Even if it's informal, they have some have registers where they manually take numbers and all of those things. This is data. We generate
Mm,
tons of data every time. And that is why if businesses want to make decisions, they turn to data. And
mm,
data is really information in print stored somewhere, either stored in a physical location or stored in cloud or stored on-prem or stored somewhere. Data is stored somewhere. That is why data is very, very valuable. And
mm,
for instance, if a company wants to open a shopping mall in a particular location, let's say they want to open a shopping mall in London or in Kent or somewhere, and they
yeah.
talk to the data analysts, to the data guys, and say, "We want to do this. Tell us, is this the right decision? Should we actually be doing this?" And data analyst is going to say, "Okay, let's get the data for the demography of the location. How many people are here? How many women? How many men?
Mm,
And how many are teenagers? How many are within the age of this to this?" And
yeah.
you have publicly accessible data that tells you that people between the age of this to this mostly buy from shopping mall. And you come back to your data, I have this age between this to this. That means these people have high tendency to buy from shopping
To
mall.
buy.
And you
Yeah.
try to check their behavioral data. How many
Mm,
times have you gone outside of their location to look for a shopping mall to buy from? And you can look at the traffic data. Well, they've gone between the last 180 days, they've had how many trips? 2 trips, 4 trips to
mm,
this location to get things in their homes. You say, okay, this is the shopping mall we are going to set, it's going to be in this location, and these are the products that we are going to put based on the data that we have. It's totally different from when businesses just wake up and say, I want to open shopping mall here. If it's not
mm,
in decision, you are going to make a loss and you spend lots of money. And after a while, you just hear that the shopping mall is shutting down because you went with
mm,
why data analysts are very, very critical is because they are able to help businesses make informed decisions
mm.
by
Wow.
providing them the insight data is giving. If the data analysts are not there, even if you have the data, you really cannot make those informed decisions. And that's why data analysts are key.
Wow. I'm learning. Thank you so much, David. So, what industry rely heavily on data analysis and analysts rather, and where do we see most of the opportunities? Is it just for big businesses, or do you think it's also open to smaller businesses as well?
Every business rely on data.
Okay.
And for like data in itself, data analytics in itself is not an industry. The way I see data analytics, I want to call it a vehicle that just helps you to get to your destination. That vehicle is not you, it's just an enhancer because data analytics applies to just any industry. The
Mm,
difference between a data analyst in the army and a data analyst in the hospital, the only difference between both of them is the kind of data they have.
okay.
Somebody in the military has a different data set from somebody in the health sector. And somebody
Mm,
in the health sector has a different data set from someone in the transportation sector. Someone in transportation sector has a different data set from someone in maybe pet care industry. It's just the data that separate them. In terms of
mm,
methodology and what they do, is not so much different. Data
mm,
analytics applies to everywhere. Even if you come down to somewhere like Nigeria or any other part of Africa where you have more informal markets, you could see a market woman. She has data. She
mm-hmm.
has this book where she writes the names of the creditors, and in that book, it's is an informal Excel because she will have name, amount owed, when to
Total.
when to go collect, and she has just
Mm-hmm.
prepared a three-column
Wow.
data to put the first name, the amount, when to go collect it, put the second name, the amount when to go collect. She will have another data in our industry, in data analytics, we call it another table. She'll have another table, the table she calls it supplier. Supplier might be Mama Nkechi. So she'll put in Mama Nkechi 40 crates of mineral, another column 40,000, another column she puts something. That woman has a database. And that book is what we call a database, because a database is a collection of different tables. So she has different tables. The only difference is that she's doing it manually. If she's able to plug those numbers into an Excel, it helps her scale her business, because if she wants to take the sum of the entire column, she'll be using calculator to do them individually. But with an Excel, you can
Yeah.
just write a function and takes the sum.
Okay.
When you go larger and the data start becoming more, Excel can no longer manage it, and you now move it into maybe a database like SQL. SQL can now manage it. When she starts growing her business and you start having multiple creditors, suppliers, and because of the complexity of managing, that is why people start going to higher platform. But there is no industry, there is nobody that can do anything without data. The
Sure.
woman, in her little way, she's a data analyst managing her business. It's just that she does not use the advanced tools of data analytics, but she's able to keep record, and that record is a database. So data analytics apply to every industry. The reason why it appears like it's only the big industries is because, like what I said, large, massive amount of data. When that woman will start having problem is when tomorrow she develops an app that is going to help people order for
From many
stuff,
parts of the world.
yeah, for anything. The moment you develop an app, is efficient for you because people can now order for anything from you. You now run into the problem of big data, because the problem
Okay.
of an app is that it generates large data in minutes. When somebody opens the app, the moment you click on login, you have you might have filled up to like 5 rows of data, because it takes time you logged in,
Your
the
name.
activities, what did you do, and the woman will now run into the problem of big data. And that's why she start talking about, I need a data analyst. That because she cannot go and manually copy all of that, the data analyst will now go and look at all of this data and start seeing how to generate and derive insights from the data. And that is the thing about big industries. Big industries are scalable. They are scaled in the sense that they are large and they use a lot of technological tools to enhance their operations. And because they enhance their operations in that way, they generate tons of data, large amount of data. And data analysts are really, really needed in those fields to be able to get insight from that large amount of data that they have. But all industry need data analytics. It might not be as large as the other one, but within your little way, you can hardly do without any kind of skill in data analytics.
Wow. Wow. So this is actually an eye opener to every business owner. It's so important for you to have a data analyst trying to analyze your data and all of that. Really, I'm learning a lot from this. Thank you so much. So, what are the essential skills needed to become a successful data analyst?
Yeah, I might not be able to speak extensively about it here,
Okay.
but just a week ago, I released a video on how to be a data analyst on my YouTube channel.
Yeah, please
So,
go watch it. I'll
uh,
attach his YouTube details and social media details to this description. Please follow him. Thank
yeah,
you.
so you could go check it out, and there I spoke about close to 15 minutes on telling you how to and the tools that you need. But to kind of summarize is the fact that one of the core skill I always tell data analytics and people that want to have career in data analytics
Yeah.
is you need to be curious, because if you're not a person, if you don't have curiosity, it's going to be very, very hard to last in data analytics. I know this is the
Okay.
last thing anybody wants to hear, because
Hmm.
many people that have come to me that they want to be data analyst. Well, I try to give them the framework. I said, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to get. And after 3 months, I asked them, how far? They said, no, you know what? I'm not a project manager. I've gone into project management, and I said, okay, what happened to data analytics? The thing is, because it's a curiosity game. Many aspects of data analytics, and I can tell you for free, is boring. It's really boring when you're looking at it. It's not as interesting as design. And I think I enjoy, because I do some aspects of graphics design,
Design.
not so
Yeah.
much. I'm still at a Canva level. So, but I do some aspects of that. To me, it's more interesting because you are just generating ideas. You try to plug in. Of course, it has its tedious part where you are trying to figure out what should come in, but data analytics is quite boring because you are just looking at a bunch of numbers, trying to understand what would be the best approach to this, and how best do I design this dashboard to be able to capture all of the key all of the key elements that are needed um, to be done here. So you have to have an element of curiosity, and if you don't have curiosity, it's always something that can be built. Of course, many people are naturally born to be curious, but curiosity is something you can actually develop. And one of the ways to develop curiosity is always asking the question why in anything. If you see something, ask yourself, why is this in here and how does it work? Is one way to develop curiosity. And if you have curiosity of the way, the first step I would like anybody to go is to start with Excel. Excel is
Okay.
really, really underrated because Excel is your first step to understand how a table works, how relational databases work. And the concept of relational is rows and columns. Excel gives you that kind of framework. If you're able to work with Excel and do basic data analytics, look at this table, use VLOOKUPs, connect one table to another table. You work with multiple sheets and you're able to do that effectively. You've just gotten started. And after that, the Excel part, that is when you should now look for a visualization tool to learn, because the end goal of data analytics is to be able to create a report for the people you are trying to provide answers for. And
Yeah.
report in dashboards and in visualization. So when you're done with Excel, you go look for how to create look for a visualization tool you could use. There are different types out there. The two I recommend is either learning Power BI or
Okay.
Tableau. One of the reasons is because they are quite easy to understand, and also they are they're about the most popular in the industry. And when you go for
Okay.
the things that are one of the most popular, it means that you have a high community of support. You could just Google anything, and there's a large community, people that have contributed. The questions you have, somebody have asked that question, and that question have been answered. So you have that large community that you can always go to do any troubleshooting. And you also need SQL because your data is going to be coming from a database, and the only language database understands is SQL. So you need to understand, learn SQL, and I think with this you will have a grasp on the core data analytics, and later on you can now advance your skill to adding things like Python, adding things like
Okay.
Spark, trying to understand the cloud infrastructure, how does cloud work. But this basic will get you started, get you your first job, and you can just hit it going before you get to those complexities.
Wow. So if I may ask, for somebody that just wants to start out as a data analyst, so how long do you think this person can get to this point of knowing how to use some of these things you mentioned?
Well, how long is depending. It depends on the person really. It depends on your
Okay.
the time you have available, how long you're willing to give to this. Like when I started, I took a 9 months course on Coursera.
Okay.
Is the IBM data science course. And that course was about, it had about 9 modules. And the 9 modules, it took me that long to be able to cover the course. Really, the
Wow.
reason it happened because I was working full time at the time, and the only time I could study was at night. So at night, I would try to do some study and see what I can get out of it. And it was quite tedious. And that was why it took me that long. About 9 months, I was just trying to um, get ahead on it. And after I finished that IBM, it was quite interesting, the IBM one, because it it opened me to the IBM course kind of opened me to the very, very foundational understanding of data analytics. And
Okay.
it's always good to learn things from the first principle. And it was
Mm.
good. And after taking that, I went on to learn Power BI from Microsoft platform. And when I learned how to use Power BI, added to what I learned from the IBM course, because the IBM introduced me to SQL, also introduced me to Python. I got my first job after that as a data analyst.
Okay.
Because where I was working at the time, I was doing data analytics as well. I was just trying to apply some of the things I was learning. The things I've learned, I went to show my boss, I've built this dashboard. We can use it to do this for the organization. We can use it to do that. They were really impressed and they said, hey, this is good. This is nice. But that was not why they employed me, and they still wanted me to do why they employed me. And I wanted something to just a job that's just data analytics. I didn't want to be doing it on this.
Yeah.
I got I got a different job, and that was how I kind of kickstarted applying all of those things. But right now, there are a lot of tools and platforms where you can learn way faster than I did. And if you have the time, today you have LLMs. You could just ask any question that you want to. Maybe ChatGPT can help you troubleshoot, or any other advanced um, chatbot. You can do all of that. Before, when you run into a problem, you could go to Stack Overflow and you will read up to 5 different pages before you can find answers to your question. Now you have LLMs that can just answer that in seconds, and it's very, very
Yeah.
useful. And you have more platform than we did. So what I could say, if someone wants to get into data analytics, if you
Okay.
could spend about 3 months
Okay.
focused learning SQL, Excel, Power BI, and SQL, like focus 3 months, you should have a hang of it. But to
Okay.
be on the safer side, I would say 3 to 6 months. Focus on a build project, work on different aspects of it. You should be able to get your first job in that field. And every other thing goes when you start applying it. Is when you now get a job, that is when you keep honing on the skills and adding other aspects.
Wow. Thank you so much. It's so insightful. So my next question is, what programming languages and tools do you use daily? I think for the second part of my question, you've answered it where you talked about what beginners should focus on when you were speaking on Excel and the likes of it. So what are those
Yeah.
programming language tools and tools you
What
use daily?
Yeah, what I use daily, it could be, it might not really be helpful for someone starting out. And
Okay.
maybe the question might be, what does a beginner use daily in the work?
Okay.
Because right now in the work I do like very little data analytics. I'm more of data engineering
Okay.
and all of that. But for someone that starts, a data analyst, one of the two they work with daily, depend on what you choose. If you go with Tableau, you're going to be working more with Tableau and writing the different embedded scripts in Tableau. If you go Power BI, you'll be working more with Power BI and you'll be writing DAX query. DAX query
Okay.
is the language of Power BI. You learn the syntax of DAX and how to be able to represent DAX in it, and you'll be writing a lot of DAX query and doing all of that. And you also be working with SQL.
Okay.
SQL and DAX are the two most common you're going to be working with in terms of programming language for the data analyst, and
Mm-hmm.
also Python, which is quite needed. One of the reasons I recommend Python is that Python is like, I don't know if you remember back then. Let me just say something funny. When there
Okay.
was a film that came out then, many years ago, and if there's any audience that is not from Nigeria, it will be quite hard to understand. We used to call it China phone, and the phone came out. Before then, this was like in the 2009s and 2008. Before then, if you had a phone, the phone did only one thing. The phone only
Mm.
made calls.
Receive call.
You
Yeah.
just make call and receive call. But the China phone that came out, and this phone, they were not Androids. A friend of mine got his own. The phone had a radio. His
No.
own phone had TV. It had an antenna. You can connect to TV. The phone was so heavy, he could even use it for weightlifting. The phone had like multiple things the phone was doing. The phone had slots for three SIM cards.
Wow.
It had a slot for memory card. The phone, and because of that phone, we started calling anything that does multiple things. We call it China phone because you can use it for anything. At a point, people even use the phone for mirror. So what I'm saying is
Yeah.
Python.
Mhm.
Python is a China phone in the sense that Python has very good use case in data analytics. It also has very use case in web development. Python has use case in data engineering and big data processing. Python also has very good use case when it comes to training machine learning models, LLMs, and all of
Yeah.
that. You learning Python is hitting different stones because if for any reason you just want to pivot into something else based on your interest,
Mhm.
Python can help you go around. And
Okay.
because and that is why many people prefer Python to R. R is also a statistical programming language. Yeah, for those that want to start doing, maybe you want to do some things around data science and all of that. But Python has more use cases because even within what you are doing as a data analyst, if you want to do any kind of EDA, you need Python. And
Okay.
it is a China phone. You can use it for different things. And
So
that's why,
many things.
yeah, that's why Python is a good one to also have.
Okay, so that's very, very nice to know. Okay, so my next question is how important is statistics and mathematics in data analysis? So I'm just thinking there are people that don't like mathematics, probably when they were in secondary school and the likes of it. Is there a place for them in data analysis and all of that?
Um, and I,
I
if
know
I
that at some point, at some point somebody can have interest for something because for me, I wasn't so interested in design, but somehow I saw myself doing it. So if, for instance, somebody is not interested in doing this sometimes ago, mathematics and statistics, is there still hope for them if they love this part of this field?
yeah, of course, I will try my best to be nice, nice in the sense that
Please.
like everything is possible in the sense that if you come into data analytics, you could just do it. And I also try to separate somebody not liking something from somebody not very good at something.
Yeah.
If you don't, if you're not good at mathematics,
Mm.
it's a whole different ball game because the skills of mathematics is something you can always develop. You can always either take a brush up your skills in mathematics, like take a course, understand basic statistics like mean,
Yeah.
median, mode,
Knowledge.
percentile, quartile, what is the frequency, like those basic mathematics and quantities, measurement, distances, and all of measure of central tendency. Those things you could actually brush up on that. That's different from somebody not being good at mathematics, as different from somebody not liking mathematics.
Mm.
Someone does not like mathematics, it's going to be quite hard for the person to enjoy data analytics because most of the things you'll be working with are numbers. And if you
Mm.
don't like numbers, it's going to be quite hard for you to and really survive in the field, because numbers will be thrown at you from morning to night. All we are going to be seeing is numbers, and you'll be building numbers for people. Everything is going to
Mm.
be revolving around numbers. And so if somebody is not a math enthusiast, what I could say is that I'll be deceiving you if I tell you that when you come into data analytics, you're not going to be doing anything around mathematics, or I'll be a big liar. And if there's
Yeah.
any data analyst that is listening to this, we say this guy is a fraud. And it's quite deceptive if I tell you will not be working with mathematics. But at the same time, when you come into data analytics, you can also define how you want to flow in it. I could say
Okay.
that data analytics, you might want to be the light, you might want to be on the lighter part of data analytics and not go much deeper to the
Okay.
part you could not be a business analyst. And in the part you focus on more on the business side, and that is the part that is customer facing, where
Okay.
what you do mainly is to kind of explain the insights from data to the end users. Because the data analyst might build a dashboard, while you can focus on the aspect of, okay, this is what the data is saying. These are the
Mm.
numbers. Our revenue reduced by 4% last month, and this is what it means based on this data available. You could focus on those light parts, where the other people could focus on the core part of getting that data, transforming the data, building the dashboard, where you could now be on the lighter part. It has some element of mathematics, but not as
Okay.
much as people doing the back end part. It's like someone coming to, well, I don't want to learn CSS, I don't want to learn C sharp, I don't want to learn JavaScript, I don't want to learn Python. I just want to be a front end developer. And
Okay.
it
Mm.
has some element of coding, HTML, even it has some element of JavaScript as well. But you are not
Okay.
as heavy as the back end developers. The back end developers, these are the people that lose sleep because they need to they work on the mechanism that helps with the app to function.
Functionality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those people, you will know some coding, but you might not go as hard as those other people that are doing the back end part. And that is how I can define it in data. When you come into data analytics, you can decide where you want to kind of flow. You can start with the Excel part and just do a little bit of, and just go more into the business side of it. So there's always a place for someone that wants to come into data analytics and not so much good in mathematics. You just to learn the basics, the means and all of that. When you learn the basics, you might not go so much hard on it, and you could actually still have a career in data analytics. But just to tell anyone, it's not as scary as it looks. The
Okay.
mathematics is not so complex. Is when you come in, it's something you can always see and understand. And the beautiful thing about mathematics is that, and why I love mathematics, it's always repeatable. Math is something you can always repeat. It's something you can always do again. It's consistent. One plus one in the UK is still one plus one in Nigeria. It's one plus
Yeah.
is one plus one in India. It doesn't change. It's universally consistent across board. And that is the beautiful thing about mathematics, because you are able to reproduce the same thing. For instance, if
Okay.
I, and this is why knowing how to code is very interesting. If I design something, I don't know about you, if I design something on Canva and I design it, I might come back the next time trying to redesign that thing. I've forgotten what I did. And I'm trying to understand, how did I do this? And there is this app now in Microsoft, it has always been called Power Apps. With Power
Okay.
Apps, you can build like a low code website by drag and drop. So you could use Power
Interesting.
Apps, and build, yeah, a low code website. You host it within your organization. The problem I have with Power App is I will finish building the Power App. Maybe it takes me like 1 month, 2 months to build the app, and everybody's using it. And tomorrow something goes wrong. I'm trying to troubleshoot where the problem is from. I will open the app. I have no clue what I did 2 years ago. If you tell me how this thing is working, I cannot understand because all I did was drag and drop, connect this to this. It was always a hassle for me. And if somebody now tells me, can you design this app again? I cannot. I'm telling you that it took me a while, but if it was a code I wrote, I have the code. It's easy to troubleshoot the code. You just see maybe
Yeah.
you can make an adjustment. You can
Mm.
put it in a repo. If somebody said reproduce this code, you just go click, you
Okay.
redeploy. It's much easier because it's consistent in many ways. And
Yeah.
that's mathematics. It's consistent and it can always is repeatable and then non-mathematics. Sorry, I had to deviate there for a
No,
while.
it's fine. It's fine. I love that you're so passionate about data analytics, right? So, and I'm so happy about how you express yourself and you're giving us so much insight about this. I just want to speak to those viewing us. Please, if you have a question, feel free to drop it at the comment section. And at this point, I want to ask you, David, please, do you have any course for people that might want to learn under you? Because you've been speaking so passionately about this. So where can they start from? So if there are links, you can share with me so that we can attach it to the description of this so that people can actually find a way to connect with
Yeah, I'll share the link with you.
you.
However,
Okay.
if you go to my YouTube channel, the video I told you I released, what I did to help anybody starting up in a career, I kind of used a spreadsheet and Excel. I divided it into these are the books you can read, these are
Okay.
the courses you can take, these are the let me try to get how segmented it. So I have articles you can keep reading,
Okay.
documentation. These are hands-on people that can take you through um, project and all of that and just kind of broke it down for anyone. So I'm going to share the link to you and anybody can use that resource and kind of find it useful. If you want to do Python, I did a 15 days Python series, which I released
Nice.
sometime in October. You can go there and just look through it on Python. But if you're starting out, in as much as I would want you to come to my channel, but Python is the last place you start with. I think you should start with other easier places like Excel and all of those ones. When you've gotten hands-on on those ones, you can now start talking about working with Python. But if you are a crackhead like me, you can start with Python as well and get started. So whichever
All
one.
right. Thank you so much. So you find all of that at the description of this video so that you can connect with David on all social media platforms as well. Okay, so moving on, I just have a few more questions before we call it a day. So what are some of the common career paths for data analysis? And how can one advance in this field? I know that for most persons that are into product design, sometimes you see them navigating towards the part of product management and the likes of it. So, what are the possible career paths for data analysis?
Yeah, there are a lot of career paths. Like I told you, when I started out as just a data analyst working with Power BI mainly. And with time, I branched, started going deep into SQL because building the dashboard was not enough. Fortunately and unfortunately for me, I was in a company where we didn't have a data engineer. It was an
Mm,
unfortunate thing for me because it now got to the fortunate one where I needed to be the one to go and get the data, clean the data, build the pipeline. And so it's now helped me to understand the data engineering part. And when you start out as a data analyst, you can branch out into data engineering. You have a prospect into data architecture. You could be a senior data analyst. You could go on, and you could get to the point where you become like the data and insights leading the division, become the head of data and insight. You can also decide to branch out into data science if you choose. And there's also the new one now, which is the analytics engineer. It's like the middleman
okay.
between the data analyst and the data engineer. because of big data and the whole delta tables and a lot of things coming up. So you could have that as a career path you could choose. Data analytics is a good way to start because you understand the very basics, the foundation. I could go on like that. And if you're like me and you're quite ambitious right now, I'm wrapping up my MBA because I want to go into the business side of data where I'm
Wow.
more engaging with stakeholders and the senior leadership. So it could be that where you kind of discuss more with senior leadership to explain data concept, because the problem with most data analysts is that it's hard for them to explain to non-technical people what technical things are doing. And that is a good career path. You now start working around the business side, talking about the cost, setting up a platform, how to hire the right people, how to build the whole architecture infrastructure of a data of a business, and you do all of that. It's quite a lot because when you start as a data analyst, you are a little pie in a very big, you're a little piece in a very big pie, and it will take you time to understand what the entire pie looks like. That is when you know that this small 100,000 rows I'm working with is not all there is in the organization. There's
Mm.
actually a data warehouse. You go to the data warehouse and you see a lot of table, lots of table. You say, what are these tables for? And by the time you understand all the tables in the data warehouse, you zoom out a bit, you now say, oh, this data warehouse is a data actually coming from this source that is being transformed in Databricks. You go to Databricks, you see this is where they transform all the data, and you see more sources that are being transformed. And you zoom out a bit and you go and actually see what the source data look like. You see the raw data, you see how um unclean it is, you see how, and you zoom out a bit and you start seeing the entire picture with time, and that is when you start having an understanding, and you just realize that this data warehouse I have access to, there's another
Yeah.
data warehouse that exists for the data scientists, which they take their own data, and this data goes to our website, and users are able to get recommendation analysis on their queries, and you start seeing the entire picture of how the organization works from end to end, and it gives you an idea of, okay, I can actually branch into this. I could
Yeah.
spend time to understand this. I could actually make this my own career path or something. So there are actually
Wow.
good aspects for it. Yeah.
It's been an awesome time with you, David, and I must really commend you for pouring out so much to all the viewers. I'm so grateful that you're here. Thank you so much, David. And one of the things that I'm taking home from this conversation is that every business out there needs a data analyst. You might be doing it in an unconventional way, but at some point you just need their services, and it's just good that I myself I learned a lot here, and I know there's so many persons that will still watch, and those that are watching are learning from this episode. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it, David.
Yeah, thanks. My pleasure. And I'm happy to be here. And like you said, you can connect with me at any time. You could
Yeah.
follow, because this is something I kind of like doing until I stop liking it. So now I still kind of like it. Let's see how to expend all the energy we can on it. And hey, thank you. So you can follow me on LinkedIn, or you just check out my YouTube channel, and there's how we are more active. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll drop the links via the description. I want to say thank you so much, David, for being here. And we can't wait to have you back again on this show. Thank you. It's quite insightful and I really appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah. All right.
And to all our viewers, thank you for being here. Please kindly like and subscribe. We really appreciate you, and let us know how you feel about the conversation. You have a nice day, everyone. Thank you. Thanks, David.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.